Hey, so it's been a couple weeks since I actually did a vlog, and I'm busy and I kind of avoiding it because I'm starting to talk about things that are really painful and hard to talk about. So I hope you enjoy the blood and sweat that I'm putting into this. So I want to talk about the ages from adolescence to late adolescence. Um, sort of defining moments of your life and how adolescence is really the practice for being an adult, and there's different competing paths in your life that sort of coalesce into who you're going to be. Now I have to say I've never been that much of a normal person. Anyone who knew me or knows me growing up knows that I was a bit of an odd person. Now, that's partially because some of the competing paths that we're on in life sometimes are complementary to each other, sometimes are at odds with each other, and they tend to be a bit of a battle within yourself that help you to define. I'm always surprised by teenagers who seem to know who they are. I never knew who I was. But so there was different paths in my life, like education, for example. Now, I had never really been overly involved in school. My parents laugh now that that I actually became a school teacher because I didn't really care about school. I didn't pay attention, as I talked about the last video. You know, I was the type of guy that would sit in the class and daydream and not pay attention at all. What's the difference between a C minus and an A? Nothing. They're both a pass. So as long as I was passing, my parents didn't care. I didn't care. But in grade 9, there used to be a course called consumer education. Now, it's gone through a couple different changes. For a while, they called it career. They called it health and career. Then they called it planning. Anyway, back then, a million years ago, they called it career education. And one of the things you had to do was take a placement test and then do a job shadow for the day. Well, I took a placement test. It said I should become, number one was a special education teacher. Number two was a religious minister. So what I offered to shadow my own teacher, and she said no. I'm looking for something easy and not hard to do. So I job shadowed my little brother's teacher. Well, kindergarten. So we spent a lot of time just job shadowing. I spent a whole day job shadowing, and she's told me, oh, you can become a kindergarten teacher in just 3 years. And I'm going, oh, it's not bad. It's not like 4 or 5 or even more from other jobs. Maybe I'll become a teacher. Now, don't get me wrong. I had said about grade 9 that I wanted to be a teacher, but I never planned on it. I just thought it was a good goal. I thought it was an interesting goal. I spent most of my time in high school thinking, yeah, I'll graduate school and I'll become a teacher. I changed my mind around a lot in the sense that I thought that, maybe I'd be a music teacher or maybe I'd be an English teacher. But, I changed my mind around grade 12. I decided to totally change my life around because that's one of the other paths of my life that came into it. You see, another important path of my life is religion. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. And I got baptized in around 88 when I was in grade 11. So I actually changed my mind. Now, you see, religion for some people is simply what they're given in life. With being a Jehovah's Witness, my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. They weren't overly active as being Jehovah's Witnesses. But it is a religion that's expected that if you're going to actually do anything, you have to do it yourself. You don't just attend church once a month or so and ignore religion for the rest of your time. So I got baptized, and I decided grade 12 that I was going to that I wanted to become a missionary. It was my goal to move to Papua New Guinea, become a missionary. I decided in grade 12 that I was going to move to Quebec. My best friend had moved to Quebec. I was going to move to Quebec, pioneer there for a few years, and then become a missionary. Now, again, I didn't have a plan. I just thought this was a cool idea, and I was going to try and get around to do it. So that started changing my life, even though, again, as I said, I had some dreams. I didn't have any plans. One of the things that interfered with that plan was another path of my life, work. Now, I had had a few part-time jobs as a teenager. I lived in the country, sort of. So I would get summer jobs doing haying, helping with crops, etc. I got a janitorial job when I was a teenager. I worked 2.5 hours a week for $5 an hour. I was rolling in the bucks, $12.50 a week, and I had to pay my parents $5 to come pick me up. But, it was a job. But, I hear a lot of teenagers who get a job right away. Problem is, I never really had the example or the drive to get a job. My mom never worked in her life. She's never had a job. My dad had owned a janitorial company, but most of the time he didn't bother working that much. He had a disability. So I never cared that much about working. And those who know me know I really still don't care that much about working. I work, but it's not my life. So when I moved to Quebec to pioneer, to devote my time to serving God, I got a part-time job as a janitor. That was about it. I never really work was never that important to me. Back to the main third path that sort of intertwines through my whole life. And that's relationship. As I started talking about at the beginning, in many ways I wasn't normal. I was a bit of an odd person. After moving to the country, I would say, and I've told this story to people before, I used to tell people my best friend was Spock. Him and I used to have big, long conversations in my head, right? Spock from Star Trek. He was my best friend. About 14, 15 years old, I became best friends with a guy named Brent. And actually, I haven't seen him in a few years, but, we bonded over playing jokes. We had played tennis, and his story is we played tennis, and he beat me 3 games in a row, so he figured he better keep me around, because I was someone like he could beat. But, we became best friends, at least in my viewpoint. He was my absolute best friend. I never had a girlfriend. I had crushes. There was people like Anna, Tracy, Lori, Janet that I had crushes on. If any of you are watching, I'm sorry, this is cringy. But I had crushes. I never asked a girl out. I was super awkward. I was just a socially awkward person that didn't understand who I was. I wasn't comfortable with being who I was as a teenager. And that was going to continue into my 20s, which is going to be another video. As I said, I try to keep all these vlogs beneath 10 minutes. So we're approaching the time. So I just want to end this up with saying, as a teenager, trying to become the adult that I would become, I didn't have some great defining revolutionary experiences. I didn't have a good work ethic. I didn't care about education. I was trying to take a stand with religion, but I had no idea what I was doing. So all this leads into an early adulthood, which I was not prepared for life, which is what I'm going to talk about next time. Thanks for listening. You are my therapist, all of you. Have a great one.